Good afternoon, everyone. It's Senator Maria Collett, and thank you so much for tuning in today for our timely Holiday Scam Prevention Seminar. I know I'm not alone in receiving a barrage of phone calls, mailers, emails, and online advertisements coming from unknown senders. I just got a phone call, a spam call to my cell phone just before we got started here, as a matter of fact. And older adults, we know, are often targeted more heavily than anyone. The truth is that anyone of any age could fall victim to a scam attempt. So unfortunately, scammers do not take the holidays off. And as we shop online, make charitable donations, and navigate an influx of advertising, it's important that we remain cautious and vigilant. In the state legislature, I'll continue to support laws that increase protections against potential scams, like the updated restrictions on robocalls that we passed last year. And my staff and I are always brainstorming new ways to fight fraud in Pennsylvania. If you have a question, please don't hesitate to reach out to my office. Again, thank you to everyone who's tuning into us this afternoon. We'll be taking your questions at the end of the program, so please feel free to leave your questions in the comments section for our presenter. And I hope you come out of this seminar feeling better prepared to avoid holiday-related scams and other fraud attempts. Now, I'm really excited to welcome Connor Ferrara, who is the Education and Outreach Specialist for the PA Attorney General's Office of Public Engagement. Connor, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm going to pass it right over to you because I know that you've got a lot of great information to share with us, and I'm eager to learn. So thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much, Senator. I appreciate the warm introduction and the opportunity for us to be here to discuss this all-important issue. On behalf of the Office of Attorney General Josh Shapiro, I just want to issue our thanks for that. Getting into the subject kind of head on here, obviously the holidays look different this year. We are kind of socially distancing and isolating from one another as a result of the pandemic, and that creates new challenges, new opportunities, but new challenges as well. And I'd like to talk about what those challenges might be as we look at the holidays this year. But we'll also be talking about some stuff that is more common, things that we'll see every year in and out as we go about our lives. So each and every one of us has a responsibility to protect ourselves and to protect others. And this seminar will discuss ways that we can do that. It's obviously a season to be happy. It's a season to connect with loved ones, connect with family, connect with communities, albeit this year we have to do so in a way that is safe and socially distanced. We may not be traveling as much as we used to. We may not be going out to do shopping in person as often as we might have in previous years. But ultimately, it is a season to be happy. It's a season to connect with one another and have these great moments with our family members and with one another. But unfortunately, there are those out there who in our community want to take advantage of us. And the kind of joke here is that we want to avoid those Grinches who are trying to steal Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever holiday you may celebrate individually, but we want to avoid those people. So this presentation will talk about some strategies to do that, and also make folks aware of what scams and fraudulent activity might be out there so that they can keep their eyes out for those types of activities. We'll cover holiday scams and frauds that are common. We'll also talk about online and retail shopping safety, and we'll also talk about home safety tips. A major scam that we are seeing that has become much more prevalent over the last several years, certainly, but has sort of always been around, is what's called a fake order confirmation scam, or a sham shipping notice. So this is a type of scam that might be perpetrated by an individual who wants to gain more information about a particular target. So they want to learn more about you as a consumer. They will, under false pretenses, reach out to you and indicate that you have ordered something or you have paid for a service that you may not know about. And they will be doing this in order to obtain information from you. What that information might look like is when you're home, what your address is, what your payment information might be. So that could be a bank account, a credit card, a debit card, a PayPal account, whatever it might be. They're looking for more information about you, the consumer, so that they could take advantage of you. Now, I think each and every one of us has an impulse when we're reached out to be helpful. And particularly in cases where an individual might be claiming that someone in our household ordered something, maybe not us individually, but somebody in our household ordered something, such as a significant other or a spouse or a child in our household. ordered something on their behalf and they're just looking for more information about the order, they might use that as a false pretense to get information out of us. Maybe that order never actually happened. Maybe that other individual didn't actually place that order or reach out to that retailer or service provider. Well, unfortunately, these fraudsters and scam artists want to use that pretext in order to gain more information about us so that they may defraud us either in that instance or at a later date. The best way that we can avoid these is by understanding that any unsolicited contact by a third-party individual, whether it is a retailer or an individual that is calling us, emailing us, texting us, or any type of communication directed to us in a way that is unsolicited, may not be in our best interest. So if you are, for example, called by a retailer saying, we lost your package that you ordered and we need X, Y, and Z information to return that package to you, don't verify that information with them. Instead, hang up the call, go to the retailer, look for an order, and do your homework. Make sure that that retailer actually is attempting to contact you legitimately, that they're not being falsely represented by a third party, and make sure, again, that we're doing our homework and that we're understanding who it is exactly who's reaching out to us. And again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. That's kind of the best way that I can describe these types of scenarios is if it sounds too good to be true, if somebody's offering you something that you didn't ask for and it's supposedly in your benefit to receive that item or that service, and you didn't do anything to actually acquire it yourself, it's probably a scam. So that's something that we'll come back to throughout the presentation. But again, I think these individuals play on our individual likelihood to want to help people, and they want to be able to.
I think we lost your audio, Connor, but as you're getting yourself back up, I'll just confirm, the information that you were giving us. And I've had this experience where I get that message on my cell phone that says, it appears to be from a shipping carrier, a FedEx or a UPS, and it says something to the effect of, I want to confirm a shipment that is due to you, something of that nature. And you're right, it is really difficult to ignore the impulse, especially during this season when I know I've placed many online orders. It is difficult to ignore the impulse to respond to that message and say, oh, okay, what information do you need? So I really do appreciate that you brought up that specific scenario, because it's one that I have had the experience with as well. And I think it's really good to remind people, hey, be wary of these things.
So again, sorry about that. But again, keeping those, to circle back, keeping these types of online ordering scenarios in mind, if we've received unsolicited contact from a third party that's looking for our information, that's something that we really don't want to share with other individuals, because unfortunately that information can be used to defraud us, either by opening a false credit card, for example, or by initiating some other type of fraud, such as social security fraud, tax fraud, or any other frauds you can really think of. A lot of what we have tied to us as individuals with our social security numbers, our banking numbers, our credit card numbers can all be used interchangeably to elicit numbers of different frauds. So that type of information is certainly something we want to be prepared to protect. Another thing that we'd like to highlight as a type of scam that is prevalent, particularly this time of year around the holidays, are what are called social media sob stories, or just charitable sob stories, where an individual might be attempting to defraud others through a crowd-funded resource such as GoFundMe or Facebook or any other type of digital communications or email, where they make up a story about an individual who might be in need in order to solicit donations fraudulently. There was a case last year where a couple set up a GoFundMe for a individual who was purported to be homeless, so that individual could get money and funds to get back on their feet and get their life moving in the right direction. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a false pretense. Over $400,000 of funds were released to this purported fundraiser for this homeless individual. It turned out to be a scam. So over 400,000 people during the course of the fundraiser were sending their money to what was effectively just a scam artist. So these are quite common these days. We do want to encourage people, if they wish to participate in charity, participate in these types of fundraising organizations, to go out and to do their homework, to make sure that we have a good foundation of understanding about how our money will be used by these charitable organizations or by these fundraising projects, and to make sure that we are not releasing funds or providing information to fundraisers that may not be. A great way to actually figure out whether or not an organization is legitimate is to, frankly, to search them online and to look up their history and whether or not they are legitimate. But if it is an instance where it's just a personal fundraiser, maybe as the result of someone in our community being sick, someone being made homeless, someone losing their job, whatever it may be, if it's one of those sort of community-based fundraisers, make sure that you know the individuals who are involved, or you know somebody involved with that initiative, so that you can verify with them that it is real, that it is legitimate, that it is not being constructed as a form of fraud. So again, we want to encourage people to participate in those platforms and to participate and to give to charity if they wish, but to do their homework beforehand. This is also applicable to solicitations we may receive in the mail or via phone. Obviously, if you are on the do not call list, legitimate organizations will not be calling you. The function of the do not call list is to prevent legitimate charitable organizations and marketing organizations from contacting you. But unfortunately, not all organizations are legitimate, and we do have many instances, I'm sure, as we're all aware of, where we're receiving robocalls, kind of throughout the day, throughout the week. Senator, I know you had mentioned it earlier, that you'd received one of these calls even today. Unfortunately, scam artists, robocallers, and the like are going to contact us about these types of charitable, quote unquote, opportunities for us to participate in. And again, these are instances where we don't provide information, we don't release funds, we don't provide banking information or anything like that until we have verified who exactly it is that is reaching out to us. So those are some things to keep in mind when it comes to charitable giving and other types of fundraising this holiday season. Another type of scam that we are seeing with increasing frequency, unfortunately, is what's called a friend or family in distress scam, or a grandma or grandpa scam. These are unfortunately and quite awfully the case where an individual will reach out particularly to a senior citizen and indicate that they might be that person's nephew or grandson or some close family or close friend relationship with that person, and indicate that they're arrested, that they need to post bail, or that their car broke down and they need to be wired funds immediately, or they're stuck, or they can't get home. In many cases, the scam artist will speak in very general terminology. They will attempt to keep you on the line as long as they can in order to gain more information from you conversationally about who you are, because they don't maybe know when they're calling you directly too much about you, but they'll try and get more information from you while you're on the phone. And some of these guys are really good at it. And while they're having this conversation with you, attempting to convince you that you are that loved one or significant other, they will ask that question eventually. They'll say, I need money. I need this amount of money to be wired to me so that I can get out of this situation that I'm in. Unfortunately, these types of calls do prey on our senior populations, and it is it's unfortunate to have to discuss, but it is a very real reality. And again, the best advice is, if it's unsolicited and you can't verify who it is, hang up the call. And do your research. Call the parents of that loved one. If it's your children and it's supposedly a grandchild calling, call their parents. Call other family members. Call other friends to verify that it is that individual. If it's the case that the person indicates that they have been incarcerated, for example, or arrested, contact law enforcement. They will obviously be able to notify you as to whether or not that's the case. So one of the things we always want to make sure is that people are verifying the veracity of the information that they're being given by these fraudsters before they release any information. So even if it's a gift card, even if it's $20 here, $30 there, whatever it is, we're not releasing that information before we've verified exactly who that information is going to. Along that line, email scams and cloned websites or fraudulent websites are a very real problem that we have these days, particularly with as many people shopping online as there are now. An email scam could look like a coupon, for example. It looks like a a individual retailer is reaching out with a wonderful offer for the holiday season that's intended to give you a steep discount on some product, and you go, oh, great, that sounds awesome. I'd love to have that thing. And you click on the link in the email, and unfortunately, that leads you to a fraudulent or cloned website, which then can install malware, some other type of software on your computer that then can be used to steal personal information, whether that's credit card information or personal identification information like a social security number. All these things can be utilized to harvest data on our behavior online and then be used to defraud us later. So even if it doesn't result in an identity being compromised immediately, it might be the case that that information is used at a later date or sold to a third party so that it can be utilized by them. So if we're receiving any type of unsolicited communication, phone calls, emails, text messages that contain links in them, URLs or hyperlinks, and we're clicking on them without verifying first that they are coming from who they say they are coming from, we're putting ourselves in danger. A good way to avoid this is to frankly not open those spam emails, not use those types of advertisements unless they are coming from a source that you trust and recognize, coming from an address, for example, that you have already communicated with in the past. And also for just general use, installing things like ad blockers and spam blocking software on our computers and utilizing those types of services to filter that content out exposes us to less of it. However, it's not a permanent or final fix to things. It might help and it may filter out some of that content, but unfortunately it doesn't get all of it. So again, it comes down to best practice. And avoiding those unsolicited types of communications, and certainly not providing any information to them should it be requested of us. Classified ads, phony classified ads are a similar circumstance, and this is where it can get kind of scary, right? So this is where we don't want to have people paying for services in advance that they have not yet received, or purchasing items in places like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or other type of publication, and then releasing funds to an individual who reports to be giving us that item or conducting those services and then never actually getting them. That's frankly, in this case, maybe one of the best case circumstances of fraud. But in other circumstances where individuals are being requested to meet in order for those services to happen, if you are ever meeting anybody online that you do not know or you cannot verify the identity of, we need to make sure that folks are meeting individuals in public places, in daylight, around other individuals, and making sure that we're being safe. That can be Facebook Marketplace. It could be a dating website. It could be a contracting website where we're just trying to meet with a contractor to get an estimate on something. Making sure that we're not inviting people into our homes, or if we are meeting with other individuals that we have not met before, that we're meeting them in public in daylight. These are best practices that we all should take into our daily lives. And again, it's about protecting ourselves and understanding that there are folks out there who may want to do us harm. So not putting ourselves in that situation is the best way to avoid that outcome. Gift card scams are a similar issue for us. These look like, frankly, any other fraudulent email or classified ad type situation where we may receive a sweepstakes or a fundraiser or something from a third-party website or organization that says, if you enter your contact information here, your credit card information there, we'll provide you with a free gift card. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Going back to that old adage, there's no such thing as a free lunch. I mean, we can roll out all of the the metaphors for this we want, but at the end of the day, if someone is offering us something for free and we just need to give them our information in order to receive it, it's probably too good to be true. So if we're getting these types of solicitations as well, we should just ignore them. And again, the best step that each and every one of us can take on an individual basis to make sure that that does not happen or any harm doesn't happen to us is by just frankly deleting the email or hanging up on the call. It's the best thing you can do to protect yourself. You didn't open your email this morning expecting someone to have sent you a free gift card. So just deleting the email that says you might get one if you give them your credit card information is probably not going to change your day too much. So that's definitely our advice in terms of getting these solicitations from folks. If it sounds too good to be true, again, I'll keep saying it probably is. We want to encourage folks to read the fine print to ensure that, for example, a sale that is purported to be 90% off the item that you want if you purchase it before X time of day. Maybe you don't check that sale out in that period of time, and in the fine print somewhere it says, well, you didn't get it in time, therefore it's going to be 10 times more expensive than you thought. But you agreed to it. So that's something that we want folks to be aware of. Read the fine print, make sure that we're not being lured into a bad deal by the big bold text at the top of the email, and instead are reading the fine print at the bottom of the email. Or in that digital cart or whatever it is that we're interacting with. Because frankly, it's a time of the year where we're probably buying things for others. We're buying things for ourselves. It's just that time of year where there's a lot of consumer spending. There's a lot of deals like this that are available for folks. But again, we want to really emphasize that you have to read the fine print and make sure that we are not exposing ourselves either to malicious intent or to just a bad deal. Moving on to sort of the physical security or the personal security and sort of the common sense side of things is watching out for pickpockets and people who are called shoulder surfers. So you might ask, like, what's a shoulder surfer? That's maybe something we haven't heard before. A shoulder surfer is an individual who might utilize a phone, for example, a phone camera, to take a photo of your debit card PIN as you're pinning it in at the supermarket. They might just be over your shoulder and snap a photo as you're putting your debit card PIN number in to the PIN reader. They might take a photo of your credit card or of your driver's license or of your Visa, or any other type of personally identifiable information or banking information that we might use in our everyday life in order to defraud us or to commit identity theft. So being very careful with where we place our personal belongings, being very cognizant of who is around us, is something that's very important even today. We may be shopping less frequently in person than we used to before, but everybody still has to go out to the supermarket. Everybody still has to go out and go about their daily lives. And being careful in those scenarios is something we want to emphasize. Another anecdotal issue that we face is something called a credit card skimmer. And that is a device that is placed over the interface of a credit card scanner, such as you may find at a gas station or at a gas pump. And that is an artificial device that's basically fixed over the scanner itself, which can then be used to steal our credit card information. It won't prevent the gas pump from reading our information too, but it'll collect that data and send it to somebody that shouldn't have it. So trying to avoid those types of scenarios where we might be at a gas pump. It's probably safer just to go into the register, talk to the gas station attendant or wherever you're getting gas and pay at the counter, because one of those devices can't be fixed to a credit card reader within the store where employees have watch over the credit card reader, which is not necessarily the case at a gas pump that might be isolated from the rest of the gas facility. So again, it's about thinking about how we can be taken advantage of and avoiding the situations that place us in harm. And certainly for the case of our credit card information and our personally identifiable documents, having them with us less frequently, as infrequently as often or as possible, is probably the best strategy. So if you don't need your Social Security card on a daily basis, it should be somewhere safe at home. If you don't need your VA card on a daily basis, it should be locked away somewhere where only you or only your loved ones know where it is. This is just sort of the common sense side of things. We want to emphasize that it's okay for people to make mistakes, but again, knowing these best practices is the best way that we can avoid placing ourselves in harm's way. Another problem that we obviously have to think about is just our own physical safety and the safety of our possessions. Dark parking lots, we want to avoid. We want to park where our vehicle is in a lighted place. Whether that's street parking or in a parking deck. We want to park where there is a lot of light. We want to try and be around other people as frequently as possible. If we are in a dark, nearly empty parking lot late at night and there's not a lot of other people around, we want people to be very aware of their surroundings. And another thing that we can do to avoid sort of those negative outcomes is avoid leaving things in our vehicles that might be valuable, or if we do have to have anything in our vehicle while it is parked that is valuable, that we place it somewhere out of sight. One whether that's by placing a blanket over it, hiding it under a seat, placing it in the trunk of our car, or whatever it is. Making your car less of a target for thieves is often the best way to prevent that type of outcome, is by demonstrating that there may not be anything worth taking inside that vehicle. One of the final points I'll make is on social media use. Everybody at this point, I think these days, has a social media account of some kind, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever folks are using these days. We all have these platforms and we utilize them on a daily basis. They share a great deal of information about ourselves and about our friends and family. And what we want to make sure is that individuals are not oversharing information online. What oversharing information online could look like is maybe we're going away for the holiday. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year, or sometime in the spring, we're traveling, and we've let people know on our platform of choice that I will be away between May 30th and June 15th, or whatever the date is. That gives someone who should not have that information access to when you're going to be home. It kind of goes back to the question of whether or not we're providing individuals with too much information. And if we've let people know that we're not going to be home for 2 weeks, that's a great time for them to break into our home and steal something. So not providing too much information online is critically important to our safety in a lot of cases. And while it's a good thing to let our friends and family know we're traveling to visit grandma or whatever it is, maybe a better practice would be to say we'll be back on the 15th, not we're leaving on the 10th. And that's a good strategy in order to avoid that kind of outcome where folks know exactly when you're not. This extends to again, going back to that, the shipping verification scam that we see, letting folks know when we're going to be available and when we're going to be home is also telling them when we're not going to be home and not when we're not going to be available. So those kinds of pieces of information that we might share sort of just to be helpful can end up doing harm. So again, not oversharing information and being smart about our use of these platforms online is the best strategy to protect ourselves. The last point, I think, is we've seen it more and more frequently as sort of online shopping has become a norm, and especially this season with us doing all of our shopping online, it seems we have a lot of packages coming to our doorstep, whether it's in an apartment building, whether it's on our driveway or near our front garage or our front porch or wherever it is. A package sitting unattended on in an open space is an invitation for theft. It's an invitation for somebody to follow that Amazon delivery van or that UPS van and watch an item get dropped off on someone's porch and say, oh, I'll have that, and drive off and go about their day. Obviously, that creates a headache for us and a headache for retailers. So what we want to do is make sure that individuals are providing these delivery services with times that they will be available, signing for those expensive items, and indicating also in their directions to those delivery services safe boxes and packages on their property. So for example, if you have some sort of gate or some area that's sort of concealed from street view that you can place, or you can indicate to a UPS or Amazon delivery person that you can place a package, that's where we want to have those packages placed, not right in front of the doorstep. It's just inviting folks to steal from us, frankly. So that's also a large recommendation. And obviously, if you are able to afford security cameras, door cameras, things like that, and also motion activated lights around your property, those are all deterrents to criminals as well. What I will do now is leave you all with our contact information for our Bureau of Consumer Protection, and also leave you with one last thought, and that's it's actually just a thought about the word scam. And we like to think of scam as a sudden contact that requires you to act now and requires you to give money or information to the person contacting you. It just speaks to all of these different types of scams and frauds that occur. They need that sudden contact. They need you to act now, otherwise the offer is expiring or whatever it is, and they need your information. So anytime that type of outcome or anytime that type of request is asked of us, we need to kind of pump the brakes and say, okay, maybe this isn't right. Maybe I should do my homework. You can always hang up and call them back if it's not real. But do your homework and make sure that we're staying safe. And I just want to again thank you, Senator Collett, for the opportunity for us to have this presentation. Apologies again for the technical difficulties, but I'll turn it over to you and we can address any questions that folks might have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Connor. It's such great information, truly. And I'm so thankful to get it. You know, some of the things as you were describing them, I was like, oh, I can absolutely picture that scenario. I am someone who is guilty as charged of clicking on those email offers. And I have, knock on wood, been fortunate that they have come from trusted sources, but I thank you for the information you've provided. I'll be much more vigilant going forward because you're absolutely right. These things can happen to any one of us for sure. And they happen so quickly that it's really hard to sort of rewind and do things over. So I appreciate that. We do have a couple of questions that have come in. And one of them, I think you touched on this a little bit, but I guess I would still like to know the answer to this. Is it safe to click on an ad for something that I see on Facebook? You know, sometimes something pops up in my news feed that seems related to maybe an item I had searched earlier in the day. Can I click on that?
Yeah, so that's actually that's an excellent question. And, you know, I think that as we continue to use social media platforms, you know, they are collecting data on us. That's kind of how they make money. If it's a company like Facebook or, you know, Instagram, well, they're actually owned by the same company. They're both Facebook. But if it is a company like Facebook, for example, they are collecting data on us and they do see our preferences and our searches. If it's Google, really the same thing is true. And it's getting kind of creepy to the point where, you know, maybe you're talking about something near your phone and then an hour later you get an ad for that thing. I remember I was looking for a workout bike a couple months ago because I can't go to the gym anymore. And an ad for one came up just because I was talking near my phone about that subject. So unfortunately, it's the case that we are receiving these very targeted ads on a regular basis these days. Most of the time, it's going to be safe to click on, but again, it's really a better way to go about shopping by actually actively Googling that or, you know, whatever your search engine is, by searching for that item specifically and then going to a trusted retailer to access it. In a lot of cases, the retailers that are providing these items will be trusted and Facebook will verify them or whatever platform it is will verify them. But again, it's always going to be safest to do our own homework and do that search ourselves and go to that trusted retailer individually.
You know, I think that's such a great reminder to all of us. I had an experience where I had ordered something early in March and I never received the product. And I had made a couple of calls to the company about it and sort of it's on back order, it's coming, this and that. And then out of the blue, I got an email that said, your item is ready for delivery. And I was like, is it though? Like, I feel like this has been a long time. And so it said, click here to arrange for the curbside drop off. And Connor, you'll be proud of me. I did not click here. I called the company. I called the retailer instead. It was a legitimate email. My product did get delivered, but it really did throw me because I had been waiting and waiting and I had forgotten about this item as a matter of fact and thought, you know, and then when I saw that email, it really did alert me and say, that doesn't seem right. This product has been out of stock forever. Yeah. Suddenly I'm getting it.
Yeah, so I think you did exactly the right thing. And that's verified, you know, the information that you received. You called the retailer, you made sure that it was legitimate and you got what you had ordered. So I think that's a success story, certainly. But again, that's the perfect example of how we can go about these things. Daily basis is just, if we get something that doesn't look quite right or we don't know what it's about, verifying that information is always going to be the best way to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. And one of the other things that I think you touched on during your talk was about third-party vendors. So if a delivery company, if a retailer hires a third-party vendor for the actual delivery and they reach out to you, it's always good to circle back to the retailer, as you said, to make sure that that third-party vendor is you know, legitimately working with the retailer. So I have another question for you, and I hope I did the right thing here too. This feels like, I don't know, like a game show, like did I do the right thing here? But I really appreciate it. Is it safe to send charitable donations over payment transfer apps like PayPal or Venmo?
Yeah, that's a great question. So using any sort of merchant portal like that, PayPal, Venmo, is just as secure as using a credit card or debit card. But one of the pieces of advice that we would give, and I'm glad you asked the question, is to utilize things like those third-party funding sources, like a credit card or PayPal or Venmo, before we utilize a debit card specifically. Because while a debit card is directly interfacing with our bank account and providing that funding directly to the party that has requested it, those other sources are intermediary funding sources. So in the example of a credit card, it's a cash advance that's being provided by the credit card company or financial institution that backs that credit card. And if it is the case that that transaction ends up being fraudulent, those credit card companies and financial institutions have a much easier time doing any restitutions necessary and returning that those funds to you than it would be the case if you had utilized a debit card or a check directly. Same thing with cash. So really, because all of that is insured, your debit card is insured against fraud. It is, you're going to be able to go through a process in order to get those funds restituted to you, but it's going to be a lot more onerous. It's going to be a lot harder. And it's going to be more difficult for the bank to actually get those funds back in your wallet than if you had used a credit card or one of those third-party funding sources. I know folks are kind of wary to use things like PayPal and Venmo, but at the end of the day, they are safe institutions in order for us to conduct spending online especially, and it's certainly safer than using a debit card. So if your choice is between a credit card, Venmo, and your debit card, certainly use the credit card first, Venmo second, and debit card absolutely last. Because if that information is compromised, you can have, for example, your whole bank account wiped out by someone withdrawing every penny that's in it if you've given them your debit card information. So that's the last funding source we want to encourage people to use. But PayPal and Venmo are good sources. But again, you'd mentioned charities specifically. Going back to those sort of those sob story scams that we've seen, doing your research on any charitable giving, on the efficacy of the organization that you're giving to, and whether or not it actually exists, is always the first step that we recommend folks to take, is to make sure that that's a legitimate organization and that the money you're sending them is being used in the way you think it's being used.
That's great information. And going back to one of the things you said earlier about those credit card scammers, I had an experience where I purchased an ornament when we were camping during the summer, last summer, not in 2020, the summer of 2019, when we were camping, and I bought an ornament to commemorate our camping trip that we could hang on our Christmas tree later in the year. And it was just in sort of a small little shop in an area that I had never visited before, and suddenly started getting all of these charges to my credit card account. And thankfully, my bank flagged them and saw that they were purchases that were out of the ordinary for me, but also in a place that was out of the ordinary for me. And when we sort of stopped and thought back on it, we realized that it was the purchase of that ornament that, somewhere along the way, somehow someone had access to my information during that purchase. And thankfully, the bank was able to reverse those charges. But it really is, it is so split second. It's just momentary. And those of us that are just going about our business, really, we can get preyed upon. So it's something to be very vigilant about. I have another question here. Should I report what seems to be fraudulent mail or email? So when I get those emails in my inbox that I'm like, this doesn't seem right, should I report it or should I just delete it and move on?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one we get a lot. It's better to report it. In many cases, there's not going to be a direct action taken unless there is actually an incident of fraud. If you have been defrauded and there is a case that you have had funds stolen from you, or it's the case of identity theft, for example, then absolutely report it to law enforcement. But you can reach out to our Bureau of Consumer Protection with those types of concerns so that we can understand as law enforcement where those types of threats are coming from, and we can do outreach like this to make the general public informed upon those types of scams. It's always helpful for law enforcement to have more information. It doesn't necessarily mean that a case will be opened for every single time there is a reported fraud or some ad that we're just receiving over and over again. But those first steps are really important. If it is a legitimate source and you request to unsubscribe from it, for example, if it's email, they should eventually take you off their list and you should stop receiving them. If you still receive them, then it's an opportunity for you to reach out to them directly and say, hey, this is a problem. I had a gentleman actually speak with me about a order that he had gotten from Land's End a couple months previously, and they'd been emailing him every week. He probably, in all likelihood, signed up for those emails accidentally, because they usually auto check that box for you when we're in checkout, and it provides us with consent to have those things sent to us. So that wasn't a case of fraud, it was just an annoyance. But in the same time, it's something that affects our daily lives. And when your inbox is full of these things that are annoying or potentially fraudulent, it's not great. So the best thing I can do is recommend that we're not subscribing to email lists that we don't want to be a part of, that we don't want to receive frequently. And if we are receiving them, we are trying to unsubscribe. And if it is the case that it is clearly attempted fraud, the best thing to do is not interact with that email. Do not click on any links that are contained within that email. And if you can, report it to law enforcement or to our Bureau of Consumer Protection at the Attorney General's office. And that way we can actually do something about it. One thing I will point out, though, is also if you do believe that you are the victim of identity theft, that is an opportunity to reach out to the FTC in order to file a complaint about that and to open a case for yourself so that your identity can be protected. So that's an instance where you reach out to them, but you're also highly encouraged to reach out to local, state-level resources such as the Attorney General's office or your local police department in that instance.
That's great. I received an email that offered a 15% off coupon code for my first purchase with this retailer. And I had to provide, I think, I can't remember. It was like you just provide your preferred email address or something, even though it was like just a spammed email. And I did that. Got the coupon code, went to the retailer, and the coupon code didn't work. And I immediately went back to my email and unsubscribed from those emails, and it did stop. I was taken off of that list. I don't know, maybe I didn't read the fine print. Maybe the coupon code didn't apply to the items I was trying to purchase, but I did have that moment where I thought, oh my goodness, 15%, was it worth it? So, I really appreciate that you keep reminding us, be vigilant, check with the retailer, check with the original source to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of. And I have one last question, and it's really about, again, social media. And how can I tell if a social media giveaway is legitimate, especially if it looks like it's coming from something that's similar to an organization that I do follow on social media?
Yeah, that's a great question. These are getting really common. I mean, they're just proliferating at a rapid pace. This is something that requires us to do a lot of homework on a personal level. The thing that we could recommend people do is if there is some sort of customer service line attached to the product or to the company that's offering that giveaway, or that whatever it is, whatever sweepstakes giveaway, whatever they call it, is to reach out to them directly and verify that it is accurate, that it is true. And again, if it's an instance where we're being asked for money for nothing, if we're being asked to provide personal information about ourselves and we're not guaranteed to receive something, maybe it's not the best opportunity for us to provide that information. But really the main takeaway here is, again, doing homework, making sure that we're reaching out directly to the company that is offering the sweepstakes. For example, going to their website, like Googling the website exactly, going to the website, going to their customer service line, finding the appropriate person to talk to, and actually saying, hey, is this legitimate? That's the best way to guarantee that we cannot be defrauded in that circumstance. But even still, nothing is absolute in this case. So again, if we're being asked for money for nothing, it's probably not worth our time. And that would be my best advice in that case.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I really appreciated the opportunity to have this conversation and share this really vital information with everyone who's tuned in. If anyone watching has further questions that are about fraud, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Office of the Attorney General or to my office, and we'll direct you. And our staffs, both at the Office of the Attorney General and my staff, we're always happy to help to make sure people get the answers that they need. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. Happy holidays, everyone. And remember, scam, sudden contact requiring you to act now, and money or information is needed. So have a great holiday, everyone, and a good afternoon. And be careful if it does snow tomorrow. And thank you so much again, Connor, for taking part today. I appreciate it.